Right, so White Devotion Aggro. Heliod Sun Crown is our headliner today, and I believe this is the first time we get to play this since we filled the White Mastery tree, so we get a borderless Heliod and borderless Daxos today, which is exciting. Just this one ugly Tomik. Oh, I can buy. I'm so glad I checked, chat. I'm so glad I checked. All right, now the real question is, do I cut Shadowspear and Banishing Light because they don't have borderless options? Almost feel like I should. Anywho, we've played this deck for a number of times. I like it a lot. I think it's fairly aggressive. One card we are trying today, even though it doesn't have a borderless option, is the Shadowspear here. And we often talk about, when we make changes to decks, identifying problems and then finding solutions to those problems. And I think Shadowspear works to solve a problem this deck has, which is the trample is super relevant on this card. So while the lose, hexproof, and indestructible can be useful for us in some spots, the main reason we're playing this card is because making this dork trample in a selection of matchups, especially against Cat Oven decks, is very, very valuable and important. Yeah, the lifelink has fine synergy with the rest of the deck too. I think this is a deck where you can adjust some of the details depending on what decks you expect to play against. So for example, if you expect to play a lot of matchups where Shadowspear is good and you don't expect to see a lot of Nissa, I would put these Tomiks in the board and I would play Shadowspear's main. I'm going to leave the Tomiks in the main for today just because I think Nissa decks are still very good, and this card's very good against them. It does provide 2 White Devotion for Heliod, but I do think if you are expecting like a lot of aggro and a lot of Cat Oven, it's very reasonable to main deck this card in this archetype. Again, is a card that really shines in specific matchups. Zabatel, thank you for the brand new tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Welcome to Hoaglandia. Thanks for keeping me around. Hope you're having a good one wherever you're at. That hand's not super aggressive, but it's fine. Would love to draw a 1-drop. Hey, that's not bad. Do I lead on that now? Probably. Definitely. We'll lead on this, and then we'll go Pridemate Life's Bounty next turn and have a 4/4. The 1-drop's really good because it means I don't have to ask myself the question, do I want to play this to fill out my curve? Because I will get to fill out my curve and use all my mana, which is great. They have a Lava Coil or a piece of spot removal here. I could end up being a little bit sad, but I think I just want to jam here. Try and curve on out. Level 0 Judge, thank you for the 20 months of support. Welcome back. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week wherever you're at in the world. Alright, so this game should be pretty done at this point. With this in play to protect my stuff, I get to jam Heliod here. Then pump up the jam here. Oh, you know what? I should have put a counter on Heliod, huh? Because I put a counter on Heliod, it can block the Regisaur profitably. That's probably the line. YouTube recommendations for someone new to Magic for learning purposes. I mean, my channel. There's a lot of content on my channel. As far as like basic intro type stuff, I'm not really familiar. That's a little bit outside my area of expertise. I definitely, well, I do try to explain some of the details of what I'm doing and why. I'm definitely a little bit higher level than just like new to Magic type stuff. Kind of like to draw a land this turn, huh? Healer's Hawk's not bad. So I'm gonna pump this up to a 6, so that way he can start attacking in. Or block. You know, either or. Oh, Spell Slingers with day 9. Yeah, that was, I remember poking at some of those and thinking it was good intro stuff. I would second that recommendation, having watched a couple of those. Day 9's also, like, great people. We're very lucky to have Sean in the Magic community. Uh-oh. I forgot to fill my water bottle, chat. What a tilter. Talarian has some videos? Yeah, I'd believe that. Talarian does good stuff. Hey, J-Ray, thanks for the tip. I appreciate that. So I'm going to block like this, because I assume they're about to Ember Cleave me. And then we'll sack this to protect the Pridemate. So they cleave for nothing. We take 4. We kill them next turn. So this gives protection from green. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Or protection from red. You know, that works too. I mean, our opponent, like, it's easy to criticize our opponent's play here, but, like, they're honestly just in a position where they're so far behind, like, them hoping I make a mistake and them winning because I made a mistake is probably the most realistic outcome there, right? Like, my opponent was simply just playing to their outs there, chat. Their out was me messing up, and they tried to play to their out, and I didn't mess up. Sometimes that's your only line. All right, so I think I want the Giant Killer and the Banishing Light. I think I'm going to trim 2 Faerie Guidemother. Maybe I want 1 less Linden on the draw. It's a little slow. I guess Guidemother's not particularly great either. I just want some Devout Decree. They had Regisaur, and maybe I just want some Devout Decree. Just bring in more removal spells. Started playing Magic a few weeks ago. I've been loving the streams. Could you possibly explain the use of a sideboard to me? Yes, so Magic's a game that you'll hear me often say has an incredible amount of variance in it. So while there's a lot of depth and strategy to it, there's also a lot of games where, like, you know, you flood and die, or you stumble and die, you just don't have the right mix of lands. And another thing that exists in Magic is what we refer to as matchup variance, where, like, one style of deck has a really good matchup or wins more often against another specific style of deck. And the sideboard is 15 cards that you get to change out with cards in your main deck in between games to adjust how your deck plays in those games. So for example, in this matchup here, as we're going to these sideboarded games, my opponent's deck seems to have a lot of large creatures in it, so I've boarded in a variety of removal spells, so that way when they play their creatures out, I can kill their stuff. Example here, this is one of the sideboard cards we brought in. Lets me exile their thing and scry 1. I need to try and draw a land, so we're going to bottom that. And in addition to potentially making a bad matchup better post-board, best of 3 also gives you a chance to mitigate the natural variance that's baked into Magic. So, like, if you have one game where you stumble and die, and your opponent has another game where they flood and die, maybe in the third game you both have a good mix of lands and spells, and there's, you know, the game's decided by strategic gameplay as opposed to someone stumbling and dying. Huh? If I just Linden, I could Heliod, but it's not active yet. But if I Heliod this turn, the Hawk gets a counter, and then next turn I can Linden and attack with the Heliod and make it huge, which is probably great. That's true too. In best of 1 gameplay, sideboards are accessible via cards like Fae of Wishes. So this card, when it attacks with 3 or more creatures, you discard 1 at random to draw 2. Linden is probably good game, if I had to venture a guess. I'm just going to stack up counters on Healer's Hawk because it lifelinks me a bunch. Not quite a lethal attack, but more than good here. Moving on up. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. You consider Linden a lot more than I do. Curious on the thought process. It's all super conditional Pathfinder. There's a lot of decision trees based on like what else you have, what they have, etc. How likely is your Heliod to get to attack the following turn? Can you trigger your Heliod on board already, etc. Like, in that last board state that we had there, I think the tipping point for me was the fact that I felt like I was likely to be able to play Heliod, or attack with Heliod the following turn, and I already had something in play to trigger with him. I'm going to lead on Guidemother here as opposed to Giant Killer, because the upside of holding Chop Down is higher than the upside of holding Gift of the Fae. It's like, if they're a deck that cares about my removal... Looks like they're Esper, so good chance my removal's not going to do much and that they're going to have sweepers here. This is a matchup where we want to bring in Gideon and our other Planeswalkers. He's dead, Jim. You've killed him. Giant Killer is good against Trawler. That is correct. Gets to sit there and tap it every turn, because remember, Trawler's activation taps itself, so as long as this is in play, I can just stop Trawler from attacking, which is nice. Thassa's seen some play. I think, what's it called? That's what I'm searching for. I think Klothys is likely very constructive playable. People just need to find the right home for it, the green-red god. I don't know that I expect Porphyros or Nylea to be particularly competitive, at least not in this current standard format. Things could change once we get another set or two. I would be surprised if Klothys doesn't find a home in this format, though. The card seems very reasonable. Consistent source of damage. It's hard to take out of play. Only card in my deck that this hits is the Ajani. He says before he draws Ajani. Yeah, the fact that he's built in Graveyard Hate is super relevant. I agree. It is Sulfuric Vortex adjacent. You're not wrong. Where do you draw the line? The sad answer is that in most games, this archetype is not going to be able to beat the opponent having a sweeper. That's just the long and short of it. If you play around sweepers, most games you play around sweepers, you're gonna lose to their spot removal because you're playing out slow enough that you're gonna die to spot removal. You, generally speaking, will lose more games making them have it than you will lose playing around it. And it's one of those things that's very emotionally unsatisfying because, like, it feels so bad to get blown out by the sweeper. And post-board games with things like Gideon and Elspeth, we can play around sweepers a little bit better because we're able to commit threats that don't die to sweepers. So something worth noting here is that this card can sack to target itself. So we can sack that to not let them gain 3 here. Niv, thank you for the absurdly generous tier 3 resub. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. I found the inverter deck with Devotion from Nagoya and 3rd, 4th. I sent it through the forum, but I'd like to see it soon. Can we add this tier 3? Yeah, definitely, Niv. That means it'll be up first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to do tomorrow's stream is going to be a shorter stream that's all Pioneer. So we'll be doing three or possibly 4 Pioneer decks tomorrow. And that'll be the first one. Thanks for the absurd support. So the problem with a card like Brought Back Ghost Sandwich, the reason why Brought Back tends to not be a good card for playing around sweepers is because in decks like this, you don't often have time to hold up mana to respond to a sweeper. So proactive cards like Gideon and Elspeth, threats that allow you to play through sweepers as opposed to responding to them, are generally the best tools for beating sweepers, in my experience. Yes, Teferi also turns off Brought Back, which they are going to be playing against us, which is super relevant. I've been holding this land in my hand because of Ashiok. So this way, if Ashiok bounces something, I exile the land instead of exiling my spell. Has there ever been a standard with so many sweepers available? Yeah, usually standard formats have a variety of sweepers. I think we're dead at this point. If we had perhaps drawn a castle in the 6 lands that we drew, we would be okay, but without a castle, I think this game has mostly slipped away at this point. The Oath of Kaya, gaining them 10 life. Like, my opponent's at 7, and Oath of Kaya gained them 10 life this game. Is like the unreal situation that we are in. The reality of it. Yeah, in my opinion, this is something I've talked about on Twitter and other places too. I actually really like there being a variety of conditional sweepers in Standard, because conditional sweepers allow players to make more meaningful decisions as to which sweeper they're playing around when both they choose their threats and when they sequence those threats out. I think sweepers like Kaya's Wrath and Shatter the Sky, I think those cards kind of suck. And I greatly prefer cards like Ritual Assault and Cry and damage-based sweepers, because those are cards that give both players meaningful decisions. And in my opinion, good game design is giving both players reasonable decisions. The more choices both players get to make, the more successful the design is. Actually, and by that nature, I actually think Settle the Wreckage is a really sweet sweeper, because not only does it lead to reasonable mind games, but it gives decent play back and forth too, which is nice. All right, so we're just dead, right? Yeah, they've broken a lot. They previously had a lot of good design decisions that they kind of went back on, and I'm not a huge fan of the fact that they went back on them. Like, Land War Elves getting printed was a design decision they decided to do again, stuff like that. I think Magic as a game was a little bit better when they didn't do those things. I think that's part of the reason Standard's been pushed in some of the awkward directions it has. I don't think Shadowspear's good. I know they have Dream Trawler, but this is not the time or place for that. Shadowspear is not an individually useful card. Yeah, redelete protection also sucked. Was not a fan of that coming back either. On the play. So obviously not having a play till turn 3 kind of sucks, but my 3-4 are 2 very good cards here, so I think I keep this. My opponent's deck is also full of discard spells. You have to equip Shadowspear to use his activate ability. I don't believe so. I don't know the full Oracle text of that card offhand. Sweet. All right, we drew a second Gideon, so we get to play Gideon next turn regardless, which is great. Wouldn't be surprised if they still take a Gideon, because then, like, we play Gideon, they Murderous Rider it, and then they're done with the Gideons. Gideon's a great threat in this matchup because he doesn't die to Kaya's Wrath or their sweepers. Do you still feel the same amount of strength, of dex, running mana elves? I don't know. I think there's probably a strong chance that the Thoughtseize combo decks and the Thoughtseize aggro decks are maybe giving them a run for their money. I still think my comments about the play patterns of those decks being kind of shitty hold true. I don't enjoy my opponent playing 2 lands on the first turn of the game, but the results so far seem to indicate that they are not the best decks in the format. Weird how when you give Splinter Twin Thoughtseize in their colors, they get better. I also think, just to reflect on something I frequently talked about here, I think the inverter decks pushing out Land War Elves decks don't mean the Land War Elves are fine. I think too often we see too much of that arms race to the top type thing, when in reality I think formats tend to be more enjoyable when the power level tends to be a little bit lower, because lower power level formats means more cards are playable. And that was the big difference Modern Horizons made, is Modern Horizons pushed a lot of enjoyable things out of Modern because it increased the power level of the format, making a lot of things that were previously close to or even playable, unplayable and bad. Well, opponent is missing white mana. We've got that going for us. We've got them on a 2-turn clock on board. Yeah, generally speaking, I think the best formats in Magic tend to have mid-range decks that are good in them. Hey, happy birthday, Twin! Thanks for the biddies. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your birthday. The old cast cry to not be dead on board. Got it? Well, our hand hasn't been particularly good, but we currently have 2 lethal threats in place. We got that going for us. Rats. If we draw a land here, Daxos plus Elspeth is lethal. And I mean, we're not even really being hurt here by having Legendaries Rex box so much as we're being hurt here by not having lands. You're fine, Wilder. Thanks for the 5th month. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Yeah, I agree with you, Reclaimer. Agonizing Remorse and Thought Erasure feel like they're better spots overall. I want to attack your face, doo-da, doo-da. I had a dentist appointment with both of my children this morning, Mr. Thinker, so we started late and didn't do Pioneer. So I've only been live for like 2 hours. Tomorrow will be all Pioneer though. My plans toss a prime to your Twitcher. Oh, Valley of Bezos. Do 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 do. I did take both of them. Christy came with me though, so like tag teaming it wasn't too bad. That was not too bad with both of us there. Did they have teeth? They did. Jacob told the dentist that he was gonna lose his baby teeth soon and they would grow human teeth in their place. So that makes me wonder what he thinks his current teeth are. Little McNugget, thanks for the 13 months. Welcome back. So, hoping to draw running lands here so I can curve Gideon into Elspeth into Heliod. Would sell for 1 land this turn, though. Feels bad, man. At least it wasn't another 3 or 4 drop. The funny thing, too, is I've had a lot of people tell me they think this deck is playing too many lands, but with 4 castles in it, you should play 23 lands. This deck definitely has a high land count for an aggro deck. But missing land drops is a real bad scene, so, you know. I assume this Pridemate's dead in a scale of 1 to dead here. They're pausing a lot. Just an omen. Okay, is there a Kaya's Wrath in my future? The Pridemate being a 3/3 means it doesn't die to cry anymore, so we've got that going for us. For folks that aren't in the subs Discord and don't follow me on Twitter, I'm also going to be off Friday morning. I have to start a little bit later because I have another appointment on Friday. And I think my plan is to add a stream of some length Saturday night to kind of make up for the Pioneer decks that we're missing on those mornings. So there's another regional PT this weekend. So I think after Saturday of the regional PT wraps up, I'm going to do some Pioneer Saturday night. If they don't impact the board this turn, we're in a pretty okay spot. I assume I'm losing Heliod to this Thought Erasure. You ever use the tierturation method of land? I don't know what that means. I don't understand to what you refer. After a game where you didn't have enough lands, add what? No, that sounds awful. We make decisions based on math around here. Vomit. The old rage cut / rage add a land. Would advise against it. So the Twitch, yeah, better known colloquially as the Twitch chat method. You know, maybe I'm just supposed to use Elspeth to attack for 6 there, but I guess this is better in the event that they have Murderous Rider. So the key that a lot of people miss on the Discord instructions, you have to be on a desktop instance of Discord to join. So you can't join the subs Discord server from mobile. As a measure of measuring things precisely in chemistry over the long run, you'll reach the optimal number of lands. So the sample size through which you're going to need to reach to hit the optimal number of lands is very large, one that you won't actually reach. So just run the statistics and listen to the math. Magic has, it sounds to me like I would assume there's less variance in whatever it is you're doing. Hey, look, I found a use for my extra Daxos. Jund Croxa, eh? It's a shocking conclusion. Actual factual shock, eh? And Pelt Collector? Whoa! Alright. Alright, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm picking up what we're putting down here. Okay. Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, Pelt Collector with Titans. I can't say that that's one I've seen before. It's a really excellent synergy. So, the Titans sacrifice themselves, chat. And this gets bigger when a creature dies as well. So if you have Pelt Collector in play and your Titan dies, your Pelt Collector gets bigger.
A pure soul inspired.
I think I just attack for 2 and then pass here. Yeah, Jack is a great draw. Pelt Collector into Titan is turn 2 mild Nikado. It is indeed. Feel like this game is over at this point. We get to chop down the Regisaur, play Gideon, run away with this game. Cut it down. Cut it all down. Full effect. Thank you for the 9 months of support. I appreciate the 3/4 of a year. So this is 2, 4, 5. So I get to play this. It enters as a creature. Let's get Tomik nice and swole here. You're correct, Pathfinder. Should have killed it in response to the other thing. I agree. So, board in extra removal, trim a couple Lindens, trim a couple Faerie Guidemothers. Splitting the difference on these because this effect isn't super powerful, but keeping our curve low is ideal. And while Linden is good, having more expensive cards like this when our opponent seems to be rather aggressive is not ideal, especially on the draw. So, just boarding up to the ability of 9 removal spells here. Hopefully allow us to catch up from behind. Thanks for the content, Trump 2020. I know a timeout request when I see one. I know a timeout request when I see one. Thanks for the 11 months, Chris. Well, that was a misclick if I ever saw one. Double squawk into Heliod. Oh no! Oh, it wasn't a misclick! He's got a bow! Oh no! Oh no! Why do red cards have reach? Oh no! We played ourselves, chat. We played ourselves. Like a fiddle. Like a fiddle. My poor little bird, chat. It never stood a chance. My poor little birdie. This artwork doesn't even have a bow in it, right? Oh, is it on his back? Is that it on his back? Maybe it's on his back. Yeah, the bot's been set to time out the punt command, like, since before the chat was sub-only. It's been that way for a long time.
Should all strive for true friends always stand by your side.
We've played Reclamation with Scarab God and Pioneer, which is probably better than Fires with Scarab God. Probably. Hey, Mafia. Thanks for the 7 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. I think it's right to lead on Daxos before the Pridemate here. I think it's a good draw. Again, going to lead on Guidemother as opposed to Giant Killer because Guidemother's adventure spell is less good than Giant Killer's adventure spell. Was all local aggro. I don't know offhand. I recommend cutting some of the spells that aren't good against aggro for ones that are. If I recall correctly, that build has relatively teched against aggro to start. Moving on up the ladder. Do 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 do. Oh, Grixis. I did not. Shadowspear is mostly in the sideboard for small creature decks and cat decks that I need to trample over. We'll keep this and we'll burn this for a white resource. Listen, mods who are asking for timeouts, I just want you to know that I am not to be held responsible for what your fellow mods are about to do to you when you come back into chat. The other mods are mean. They're gonna... If you're a mod and you get timed out, you're realistically looking at 2 to 3 timeouts a lot of time. The other mods know they're allowed to bully mods that don't have swords. Again, I just request that mods, I request that you just simply do not time out new mods before I can give them their first sword. Maybe I'm supposed to double stack on one of these to play around another stomp. However, putting both of them on the same hawk is worse against Brazen Borrower. It looks like they're playing Teamer Adventure, so playing around Brazen Borrower doesn't seem unreasonable. We do have Stomp, though. It's unfortunate. Need to draw a bunch of cards next turn. Really need to draw another threat or two. Well, I mean, that's a threat eventually. That's technically 2 threats eventually, huh? Is there a mod room? Twitch retired individual chat rooms for channels. I assume because they largely just didn't get used. What can you do with your training sword? You can work on proving that you won't hurt yourself when it's a real sword. Hey, Coons, thanks for the tip. I appreciate it. Sec.
Everything will be fine if we
2-3. I am a lot more than this time, though. Healer Hawk wins a lot of games with the back of the Sun Crown on the back of the Sun Crown power map. You are great. I have the fire. Thanks for the 15 months. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. Do 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 do. Have a good one, Mr. Thinker. Hopefully you'll catch up on YouTube later. Thanks for dropping in. And this is an easy block, right? Because Ajani will get to make a new token next turn. I can't attack anyways. Okie doke.
A pure soul can inspire others. Until we achieve peace, we must.
Heliod like pops up into being a creature for a split second and just like nopes right on back. And he's gone. They have a brazen borrower here. It keeps pausing like they have priority. We could get bounced here. Yeah, it's real good. Okay. Welcome back, Goons. I got you. Okay. They can't really afford to attack here, right? Yeah. Soup. Joel says soup. Soup is good. Is it weird that I eat soup for breakfast most mornings? I like soup. Are we dead? I kind of feel like we're dead, huh? So like they have this Lucky Clover and they have a borrower in exile that they're going to get to double. They're going to get to double Petty Theft next turn. They also have like a 1/4 that can block by Healer Hawk. Kind of feel like this game slipped away from us. Of course, roller dude. I do not have any Teamer Adventures variations in the queue right now, no. Huh? So they're not a Nissa deck, so Tomik's probably a fine cut. Giant Killer seems okay. I guess Banishing Light's probably fine. Hey, Wolfie, thanks for the 14 months. Welcome back. I wonder if this is a Shadowspear matchup. They have a lot of 1/1s. Maybe it's a Shadowspear matchup. Let's give it a try. How are adventure decks post Theros? They're not ones that I've seen a ton of running around. I believe we have, yeah, there's a green-red adventures deck in the queue that will probably get to Wednesday or Thursday. I believe. So there haven't been any individual large standard tournaments like Grand Prix or Opens. There was a team tournament that had standard as one of the seats, but like, you know, remember, players can have bad records in their individual seats and still do well in those tournaments. It's rare, but it happens. Hey, Bods, thank you for the half a year of support. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday wherever you're at. Happy February, by the way, folks. First stream of the new month. You're at 41, Sadistic. Why do you have a giant healer talk on your screen? Refresh your stream. It's a bug with Deckmaster. Speaking of, I'm gonna try and make a priority to get that sorted out this week. Need to figure out what exactly I need to do. Well, you know, third Ajani's the charm, right? Opponent missed Landra. Apparently Worlds has a draft portion in it. I've been out for a bit. Where's the best place to start with packs? I have nothing current and $100 a month budget. I mean, Theros, and if your plan, I guess I should ask, what is your desire to play? If your plan is to play a bunch of standard, getting Eldrin and Theros will be the most bang for your buck. Just because those sets are going to be legal and standard for the longest amount of time. After Eldrin and Theros, I would recommend prioritizing getting RNA and Guild still if you don't have full playsets of Shocklands, just because Shocklands are kind of evergreen in how good they are.
Our true strength lies in our I am proud of all those who stand up to me. A pure soul can inspire others.
Well, if they have a blue source and a brazen borrower, they get to reset all our Ajani tokens, which wouldn't be great with their lucky clovers, but hopefully they just keep missing blue mana and we're going to run them down here.
My pride grows stronger. Everything will be fine if we stand by sense.
Is it worth it to get core set 2? I would not recommend prioritizing getting core set packs. Yes, the caucus is a party nomination vote. So the Iowa caucus that's going on tonight is the first state that votes in the Democratic primary to pick who will get the Democratic nomination for the 2020 presidential race. In true GOP, we rig elections instead of winning them fairly fashion, the GOP canceled their primaries in a number of states when there were a couple of different other Republicans who wanted to run in the primary against Trump. Why don't all the states vote at once? I don't know. I agree that that's weird. Does that mean people don't vote for the candidate? So people who are Democrats vote for who they want the Democratic candidate to be. And in some states have what are called open primaries. So people like Illinois, where I live, has an open primary. So people in Illinois can vote in the Democratic primary without being a registered Democrat. You just like ask for the Democrat ballot when you show up to vote in the primary. Well, shoot. Hey, thanks for the 26 months, Appletoons. Hope you feel better. Are we dead? I kind of feel like we're dead. This is our rank floor matchup anyways, right? So it's a free loss. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and concede. Move on to the next one. Yes, yeah, if you're a registered Democrat, you can always vote in the primary. If you're not a registered Democrat, you can still you can still vote in some primaries in open states. Republicans can turn up to an open Democrat primary and sabotage it. Yeah, theoretically, if there was a large coordinated effort, they could do that. I'm more likely to use the Thassa one, right? So let's start the blue track. It's not a great system, but it's what we've got. It's what we've got. Another thing, and this is something that could be relevant in this election, is that the person who gets the most votes in the Democratic primary does not automatically get the nomination. A candidate to get the nomination has to have 51% or more than 50% of the votes. So, like, if there are a lot of people who stay in through the end of the primary, it's potential that, like, the first vote doesn't actually pick who gets the nomination. And then the process for how it works after that is muddled, and I don't know exactly how it works, but it involves things called superdelegates and other messy nonsense. I think I'm going to keep this because this hand's just, like, very good if I run off a couple of lands. I know we're on the play, but, like, if I hit a land on turn 1, we're in a good spot. A lot of states in the United States are referred to as at-will states for employment, which means they can fire you at any time for any reason. Is that right to work at will? I forget what the technical definition is, but there's a number of states that are allowed to fire you at any time for any reason. So after 2016, super delegates don't get to vote in the first round of the primary, or the first round of the caucus voting, or however it works. I don't know. Google it. It's different than 2016. Right to work is different. It's referring to unions. Okay, good. I was pretty sure one of those two was wrong. Thank you for the details. That's a good draw. Can find another land here. I believe we have died. The superdelegates thing is weird because if you think about it, if Republicans have superdelegates, Trump never would have gotten the nomination, but Democrats had superdelegates, and it's why Bernie lost. That's actually a really interesting thought that I've never put together in my head before. You're right that those two things, gives you some pause, huh? Could be Esper missing a color, could be just black-white. At any rate, we kind of board the same against the deck with sweepers. If they have Dream Trawler, I guess I will have Beanstalk or Chop Down instead of the Faerie Guidemother, but we board approximately the same regardless if they're black-white controller Esper. I have no idea. I'm not going to comment on things about 2016. Maybe I shouldn't read things that aren't linked with sources in chat about 2016 because I wasn't informed or cared then. Did not vote in the Democratic primary in 2016. Alright, who's got 2 thumbs and is excited to concede to Kaya's Wrath next turn? This guy right here. In fact, I'm actually just gonna play this out too, because I'm just conceding to a Kaya's Wrath. I missed a point of damage there, but whatever. Looks like just black-white control. Do you think that Standard is becoming more like Modern? I don't know Modern well, but it sounds like ramp and combo dominate Standard, which is kind of the feeling. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily untrue. Lieutenant Bird, I think the way the higher Standard's been pushed in a direction of higher power levels. And one of the ways in which the power level has been increased in recent years is through the use of ramp and combo decks, which has a lot of parallels to Modern. I mean, to be fair, Maury, that's the campaign that Trump's going to run in the general. You're going to hear about Venezuela a lot if Bernie Sanders gets the nomination. Simic Ramp is very, very good. We played that deck last week. It felt like playing Standard on easy mode. Speaking of easy mode, this is a good turn for us. We'll get to deploy Gideon lifelink to Pridemate here. And like, if they have Kaya's Wrath next turn, they have Kaya's Wrath, but I get to keep my Gideon around at least.
Together we can banish evil from this plane. I will lend you my strength.
What's the counter argument to the Venezuela argument? The counter argument is that the things that most people refer to as socialism isn't really socialism. They're just strong social safety nets. And strong social safety nets are valuable and create, happier people because they don't have to worry about going bankrupt because of things like getting sick. Deck Q stuff is manual. It is. I don't always acknowledge shillings bumps because they're not actually money for me, and there's a dashboard at the end. So they all get accounted for. And they don't get applied until the end of the stream. So at the end of the stream, I have a dashboard that shows me all the dollar donations, bit donations, and then anyone that people use shillings for, and then I do calculations from all of those and update them. Yeah, social programs doesn't mean socialism. If public schools didn't exist in 2020 and Bernie Sanders ran on the platform of creating public schools, the GOP would call public schools socialism. Every single thing that has improved the lives of normal, non-wealthy people in the last 50 years has been tried to be written off as socialism and bad. Cavalier plus Oathakaya is sweet. Just hanging on to my planes. I think it's Vigilance too, right, Chris? Okay, well, I mean, next is me. It's just me a free 5-ball, right? So, opponent making a small mistake here. If they would have killed my Linden in response to the adventure spell, I wouldn't have gotten the adventure creature. Because remember, if you remove all the targets, the spell's countered, and then this doesn't go on adventure. Oh, I suppose I could have protected it. Is that worth it? I don't know. Yeah, it was probably worth it. Yeah, I should have protected that. The Life's Bounty was in play. Yeah, I think you're right. If I would have protected Linden there, this would be a 4/4 right now. Yeah, I found that a lot of people, when you talk about the policies, like, don't ask someone if they want Medicare for all. Ask someone, do you think your neighbor should go bankrupt if they or their children get sick? Most reasonable people are capable of empathy, and they'll say, no, I think that's wrong and bad. I don't want my neighbor to go bankrupt if their child gets sick. When you focus on the details, Democratic policies are a lot more popular because the details of those policies are what a lot of people want in their lives. In fact, Trevor Noah's a late night host on Comedy Central, and he had a previous GOP strategist on his show, and one of the things that strategist talked about was how Democrats put themselves at a disadvantage when they're running campaigns because Democrats spend too much time talking about the issues, whereas Republicans spend a lot of time playing to win, and they don't focus on the details because they know focusing on the details gets their party mucked up because a lot of people don't like their details. Yeah, if I need to chump block here next turn. Yeah, I think if I would have protected the Linden, I would have been fine here. All right, I'm gonna give you one free pass along with that timeout, Suvi, because maybe you don't know. Todd Stevens is a horrible human being. And if you don't know what I'm saying about that, why I'm saying that, I'd encourage you to Google his name. And his emoticons are never welcome in my chat because he is, in fact, a horrible human being. He has made a lot of people feel hurt and unwelcome in the Magic community, and he is not welcome in my spaces in the Magic community. How do I know they're Todd Stevens emotes? Because you can click on the emote, and it tells you whose emoticon it is. So we were a little bit unfortunate with our draws here, but at the same time, if I would have protected the Linden, I would have been in a much better spot. So again, this is a good example of where, like, it's easy to write this game off as we got unlucky and just forget about the fact that I made a mistake. And, like, if I hadn't made the mistake, I wouldn't have put myself in a position to be unlucky. So the only reason I'm able to be unlucky here is because I messed up. And that's a detail that I think a lot of people don't think about enough of the time. It's easy to focus on all your lands to draw and ignore the fact that you made a mistake. This, I mean, as far as lands go, right? Like, finally drawing one of our 4 utility lands is great. Time to rage cut a land, yep. That's true. The opponent has also not had a lot of action. So, like, similarly, not very fortunate. We've both drawn a lot of blanks. And, like, the fact that we both drawn a lot of blanks means if I would have kept my Linden, we'd have been really well off. Welcome back, Blair. I told you the other mods are bullies. I told you they were gonna bully you. Now this makes 2 life when they attack. So I definitely don't think we're a favorite from here, but yep. Okay, lets them kill my next threat. Second castle, you say? I think for a luxury hobby like Magic the Gathering, Leebs, a community that you have hurt is in no way obligated to accept you back into it once you've shown that you've changed. I think people can change, and I think if someone's shown they've changed, they shouldn't be ostracized from all of humanity. But when you go out of your way to hurt people in a community that is an optional part of your life, that community should not feel obligated to take you back, regardless of if you've bettered yourself. And that ignores the fact that in the case of specifically Todd Stevens, he has not shown remorse, which is an important detail, even if I didn't feel that way.
I can get rid of anything, living or dead.
There's a lot of nuance to that discussion. And I don't know that I'm qualified or I'm qualified to talk about all the nuance, but yeah, this game has been a good example of some of the staying power our archetype has. This gets back when they cost 3 or less, right? Do they have things that cost 3 or less? They don't, right? It's just a 4 or 5 lifelinker. Castle is really, really good. Rhino, the Stevens emotes are basically the only ones you're gonna get. I'm gonna have a problem with in my chat. And like I said, generally I give people the benefit of the doubt. He bans people very quickly in his chat who talk about who he is. So we can delete the Heliod command.
I'll be back. Just you wait.
Do I quad block? Do I just like 5x block this? I think yes is the answer. I think. Can these 2 castles grind them out? Oh, they had Charming Prince, right? That's cute. Was Splinter Twin combo not successful this weekend then? A different Splinter Twin combo was successful this weekend. Blue-Black Inverter had very good weekends at most of the tournaments that's happened. So they're going to sack their eggs to Doom Foretold here.
Better good for you.
This Kaya's just going to kill us here, huh? I'm gonna make 1 token in response here so I can gain a life with us.
I believe in you.
How do you feel about the fact that non-Magic Fest tournaments aren't being marketed at all? I didn't realize there were tournaments this weekend until the final match. I mean, it's not Wizards' job to market other people's tournament series, right? Wizards has never really been one to market third-party tournaments. Yeah, I think we're dead here. We could survive for a while, but like with this Doom Foretold and stuff, like we're just gonna be just in the process of losing slowly here. So, unfortunately, as far as that set of matches goes, we didn't actually hit any of the decks where I was expecting Shadowspear to be good. I think this deck's very reasonable. I don't think it's a very high in-game player agency deck, though. This deck is very much a lot of like, hey, how did I mulligan? How did I sideboard? Was my hand linear enough? Did they die? This is a game where you're just looking to keep aggressive hands and curve out a lot of the time. While you do have some grindy staying power in some of those longer games in the back of Castle and Heliod, you probably lose more of those games than you win. A lot of the games you're winning involve just like running people down in the first, 4 to 6 turns or so. If you're looking for an aggressive deck, I think this is a very reasonable one. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more in-game play to it, I'd probably have you err on the side of some other things. All right, at any rate, we're going to be rolling right along in Standard here. Want to get to three more decks today at least. Up next, we've got some Bant Enigmatic here. This is an enchantment we played a little bit of last week in a 4-color deck. When it hit a quick ad roll, while I get everything set up, when we get back, we're going to play a little bit of this bad Mama Jamma. Thanks for hanging out today, folks. Don't go anywhere. This is a viewer-submitted one. So we played a 4-color build that I liked a lot. This was a 3-color build that we had waiting in the queue from before that one. Although I did take some of the lessons learned from the 4-color build and apply them to this.